Welcome everybody to the Trinity County Fire Safe Council meeting on Thursday, December 16th at 1 p.m. So we're going to go ahead and start our introductions. My name is Amelia Flights and I'm the Watershed Program Manager with the Trinity County Resource Conservation District, and I'm the Trinity County Fire Safe Council Coordinator. I'm going to pass it to Carol.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Carol Fall, and I'm the chair of the Trinity County Fire Safe Council and with Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department. And luckily our power is on at the fire station. Okay, I'll pass it on to Tom March.
Hey there, everybody. Tom March, Caltrans landscape specialist. Thanks for having us, me. Pass it on to, I guess, Eric Smith.
Good afternoon, Eric Smith, Southern Trinity Fire Safe Council, and I'm glad everybody's here today and they've survived the weather thus far. So how about to Jerry?
Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself?
I was muted, sorry. Jerry Cousins, Weaverville resident and Trinity County Cooperative member. And I'll pass it on to Amelia with congratulations.
Thank you, Jerry. I will pass it to Marla.
Hi, how are you? My unmuted. Let's see. Sorry, I'm on my phone. Hi, I'm Marla and I'm representing, well, I'm sitting through this for the RCD and today I'm also for Coffee Creek. So hello, everybody. And I'm not sure who to pass to, Amelia, if you could help me out with that.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Cole. I'm the Trinity County RCD's Forest Health Program Manager. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, good afternoon. Rob Winkler, Bureau of Land Management, out of the Reading Field Office. I'm the Fire Management Officer.
Xander, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Xander Winter at the Watershed Center in Hayfork, Forestry and Fields Program Associate.
Thank you all very much for joining us. I will hand it over to you, Carol.
Okay, everybody. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? I have one suggestion, which is under discussions that we do an update on where we're at with the Title III RAC proposals. Anybody else have any additions or changes? No. Okay, all right. We don't have any presentations, so I'm going to turn it back to Amelia, who's going to talk to us about the new monthly newsletter. Amelia.
Good afternoon, everyone. So some of you may have seen that our newsletter has taken on a little different view. Well, it's the first time in a while that we've had a newsletter, but also that our monthly emails about the announcements for our meetings have taken on a little bit of a different look. And so with that, I'm starting to cover a little bit more of showcasing some of the volunteer fire departments and the actions of our partners in the news, as well as sharing with all of you the social media that's happening. For some of you that are on social media, you can skip over it as you might see it twice, but for those of you that missed that, it's some really good information and photos and that kind of stuff. And so we're happy to share that out in multiple sides. And then if you guys have any questions or comments or feedback, I know Chris has already given me some feedback on the text size, so it'll be bigger on the next one. But if there's anything more that you guys want to see as part of these, please let me know. I'm just gonna keep making it better and better as it goes.
Hey, Amelia, this is Jerry. I thought it looked great. Thanks for all the work on that. And I too was going to suggest a slightly larger fund.
Any other thoughts on the monthly newsletter? Yep, I agree. You're doing a great job on that newsletter, and also the social media posts that you're still posting stuff in the winter, kind of keeping our Fire Safe Council, in front of people's faces. I think is great. So I like those posts so that we're not just posting during the fire season.
Right on.
Okay.
My last thing on this is that wasn't included in the newsletter, but I will get an email out. I will be presenting to the Board of Supervisors next month, or sorry, not next month, next week on December 21st, as to our plan to spend the California Fire Safe Council funding. So it will talk about all of our different meetings and our social media and our outreach strategies. So if you're interested in getting some more info on that, catch me at the Board of Supervisors meeting next week on December 21st.
Okay. So let's move into discussions. And so Amelia, air quality issues.
Hey, Chris, was Dave going to join us today? He was going to spearhead that conversation.
He had something come up, so he wasn't able to make it.
Okay. With that, we can either table this item or we can look to bring it up. But I think that there might be an opportunity for the Fire Safe Council to write a letter of support either to our legislation, to our politicians, to the North Coast Air Quality Management District, but to discuss the benefits of our control burn operations and protecting our communities, and just showing our support for all the work that's being done around us, and try to address some of the issues collaboratively of being shorter and shorter burn windows, and it's getting wetter and wetter, which is limiting the outputs that some of our partners are able to have in these burn windows. And so reducing the burn capacity, if they're gonna say that due to air quality concerns, we can only burn 5 acres a day, for instance, and you want to burn 500 acres in a year, that's 100 days of work, and that's not going to be feasible, right? So we can't pay our crews for 100 days. We can't, honestly, the burn window is probably even not going to be fully in effect for 100 days. And so just having the discussion, I'm just interested in what people in this meeting think and where we might want to take a stance. Do we want to show support? Do we not? I'll open the floor.
So I guess, along the same line, I definitely think it would be good if the Fire Safe Council supported something like that, in that we were just burning recently in town, and we got shut down for the air quality, but knowing that just the limited timeframes we have to do any kind of prescribed burning, whether it's pile or broadcast, if air quality is shutting it down, and everybody's driving cars and going wood stoves, and then there's 100,000 acre fires, I think prioritizing community protection is something that I would definitely be behind, and burning and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, here, Rob from the BLM. Yeah, totally agree. I think what support the Fire Safe Council could provide, if it is a formal letter to North Coast Air Quality, providing the suggestion that any, especially hand pile burning less than 10 acres daily, they really need to look at acreage and overall impacts, and work with us on our requests for sure. Because if we're being limited to half of the acreage per day, we're going to get half of the work done per year. So that's what it boils down to. Or we're going to try to take advantage of more conducive burn windows. So trying, instead of getting 10 acres a day, trying to get 50 acres a day with, with good air quality. And there's other issues that come with that. So spreading out the impact, we at the BLM totally agree with the formal letter. Any support the Fire Safe Council can provide. Thank you.
Jerry here, also support the letter, definitely increasing the amount of acreage that can be burned. But somebody earlier said really stressing community protection. I mean, you can't say no to that. Well, you can, but and they probably will, but I think we go that way.
Okay, so our internet went down for a bit, I think. And so I missed part of the conversation, but I'm hearing that I guess the consensus of the group is that we should send a letter from the Fire Safe Council expressing concerns on this issue. Am I summarizing that correctly, Amelia?
Yes, and expressing support to be able to allow our agency partners to complete the burns in the burn windows such that if limitations continue, that they can only have impacts half as much, that we'll only see half of the impact per year be accomplished, half the work accomplished within a year. Yes, we can work together on getting that drafted.
Okay. I think we'll go ahead and draft a letter and bring it back to the January meeting then? Or do you want to just go ahead and send it, since it seems to be the consensus of the group?
I'm partial to send it, but if anybody here wants to review it before it's sent, I'm open to bringing it back.
How about if the letter gets written and you email it to everybody and just give them a chance for input, and then go ahead and send it once you receive as much as you get?
Good suggestion, Jerry. Thank you. I think that's what we'll do. So Amelia can draft the letter and email out the draft and see if anyone has any comments or concerns. Okay, the next item is the local area resource list. Let's see, Amelia and I did finally have a chance to talk to the Trinity County Fire Chiefs about this. I think they were like, yeah, we need to think about this. There are issues, but let's kind of wait and see for a while. That kind of what impression you got?
Yes, and the other item that I need to do some more digging on and address with the Board of Supervisors in the county is changing a little bit of the description and the naming. So in the past, we've called these local area resource advisors, but we're going to look at changing them into local area liaisons, and just changing that infrastructure to align a little bit better with the current incident management nomenclature so that it reduces some confusion.
So basically, yeah, we're still going to be working on that. But no real news today. Okay, so I wanted to do an update on the Title III RAC proposals. So has everyone who received a letter of support from the Fire Safe Council submitted their application to the Board of Supervisors? So we had the Weaverville Fire Department for 50,000. Watershed Resource Training Center for 75,000, assuming that they were going to provide some extra work in the Southern Trinity area. RCD was 50,000. The Willow Creek Fire Safe Council was 10,000. And the Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department was 2,700. Does anybody know if those were all submitted and if they were if there were any additional ones submitted?
Carol, hi, it's Marla. Coffee Creek did also submit one, and I think the amount was 7,000 that we asked for.
Okay. Yeah. Guess we didn't have a chance to give you guys a letter of support, but can you tell us a little bit about what you were asking funding for?
Yeah, a new floto pump and chainsaws, and then some slings for the chainsaws to carry them in.
Were those for equipment that was damaged?
Ooh, that's a good question. I am not sure. I know the pump is ancient and it's a problem because I know you've seen it. It takes its own truck to get places and it's super heavy. It's about what, 25 years old. So that was just to replace it altogether with something smaller, lighter, etc. And the chainsaws, I don't know if there was damage to those or not, Carol.
Okay, just because if you read the eligible criteria, it has to be Firewise community, homeowner education and activities.
Right.
It can be reimbursement for firefighting on federal lands. So, if the floto pump or something was used in firefighting on federal lands and
I think it was. I think that's the problem.
Criteria. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Just because we don't want to lose that funding by submitting proposals that aren't meeting the program criteria. So
right.
Sounds good. Anybody else know? Did Amelia, did you get a chance or did you hear anything back from Southern Trinity Fire Safe Council about their training request? No.
No, I never heard back from Southern Trinity Fire Safe Council. Well, it was the Southern Trinity Volunteer Fire Department. It was Jean. I never heard back from them. I know that Willow Creek Fire Safe Council was very interested and they were requesting a lot of information for us for their proposal, but I don't know if they submitted it. The RCD did submit our proposal for $50,000. I don't know about Weaverville Volunteer Fire Department, but I know they were working on theirs. So I would hypothesize that they did get to submit theirs. And I'm not sure about Watershed Center. Xander, do you want to contribute?
Yeah, so we included the proposal for the work in Southern Trinity in our overall proposal. And then as that gets funded, we will be reaching out to them for areas that they identify for work. So that's how we sort of geared that.
What was your total ask there?
It was, if I recall, around 20,000, 25,000 for, it was the same as Hayfork and High and Palm also.
Okay, so Eric, just so for your information for the Southern Trinity Fire Safe Council, we had a request from Southern Trinity Volunteer Fire Department for funding for essentially wildland firefighter training and to pay for that. And we let them know that CAL FIRE is offering that training for free to every volunteer fire department this winter. And Southern Trinity is on the schedule, and we understand from CAL FIRE that they were down there doing the training. So that would mean that Southern Trinity Volunteer Fire Department wouldn't need to spend that money. And so instead we actually asked the Watershed Research and Training Center to add $25,000 to their original budget request in order to do fuel reduction work in the Southern Trinity area. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. So we wanted to make sure you guys got some of that funding through the Watershed Center. So does that sound okay to you?
It sounds okay to me. I'm not integrated with the volunteers quite yet, but I did meet with the folks this week and talked a little bit about the Fire Safe Council. So I'll definitely pass that on. It sounds like it's an excellent trade-off and the right way to go from my perspective.
Okay. All right. So any other updates then? The applications that were received will go to the Board of Supervisors for consideration next week, as Amelia said, at the Board of Supervisors meeting on December 21st. And so if you want to say something about your proposal, you can. Otherwise, I am going to try to find out ahead of time if they've gotten other applications, because right now we're going to be over the 192,000 available. Because if you add Coffee Creeks, the Fire Safe Council had recommended funding for 187,700. So there's 192,000 available. So we're going to be at 194,700. So they're going to have to cut some of the ones that we recommended. And usually they just do like a low minimal cut across the board. So anyway, we'll find out next week who gets some funding. Any other comments or questions about the Title III RAC proposals then? Okay, so we'll move on to project updates. Who's doing what? So Rob, you want to start off with BLM?
Yeah, sure. So we have been busy in Trinity County. I don't know what update was given on the last call, so I'm going to wing it a little bit here. So we have completed a little over 50 acres of hand pile burning in Reading Indian Creek, a unit that the Trinity RCD quarterbacked building the piles on, and in agreement and in cooperation with the RCD and CAL FIRE, the BLM was able to complete those 50 acres. Additionally, in Lewiston, we've completed 35 acres of hand pile burning this fall, with 20 more acres to go. And those 20 acres are off of Salt Flat, and we have that scheduled to begin January 10th. And so that will be in cooperation with Norelma Wintu, who are providing the survey and archaeological monitoring while we're doing that burn project, as it's a sensitive site. So yeah, pretty excited to get that piece done. Additionally, I'm sure Chris will talk about it during his update. The RCD has been working on the BLM in Lewiston as well, on Poker Bar as well as Lewiston Road. And the Trinity River CAL FIRE crews are also working daily there in that project area. And so additionally, additional to that, the hand piling was completed on a roadside hand cut and pile project on Little Browns Creek to complete 50 acres on BLM, both sides of Little Browns Creek Road from 299 back to where private property starts. So that will have hand piles remaining on it through the summer, and that they're too green to burn right now, so they will have to season through the summer before we can get in and burn those hand piles. So let's see, planning wise, we are writing a service contract for some work there, some larger units on Little Browns Creek. The BLM's gotten some additional funding to begin another manual treatment, and we're looking at contracting 50 acres up there. It's one of 5 units that Trinity County RCD helped the BLM develop the compliance for, and is also part of a larger CAL FIRE grant secured by the RCD. So that's what we're working on there. In addition to some more planning phase stuff there in Weaverville Community Forest. And that's a 400-acre roadside project that we're working with the RCD and some NEPA contractors to help us get some surveys completed, wildlife, archaeological and botanical surveys. But that won't be complete until the final survey period, fall of 2022. Yeah, that's I think that's about it for the BLM. Yeah, near-term implementation. So CAL FIRE is going to continue working there in Lewiston on BLM. We have an additional 80 acres to complete yet of hand cut and pile, and they'll be chipping away at that through the winter. But our cured piles, other than what we're looking at in early January, we're all caught up with hand pile burning in Trinity County right now. So moving on to mechanical thin for the rest of the winter. End of report for the BLM.
Okay, anybody have any questions for BLM? No? Okay.
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Rob, what is, do you guys have any areas planned that'll go under the, I think it's an EA, but there was a notice of scoping from the BLM that they're looking to treat up to 900,000 acres across the state.
Yeah. Yep.
Does that reach into Trinity County at all?
Yes, it does. So yeah, it's a statewide programmatic EA, environmental analysis. And so yeah, it covers almost 1 million acres statewide. So for us, it covers all of our WUI project areas. So wildland urban interface. And so they built the project area with a half-mile filter. So they looked at anywhere that is populated bordering BLM and created a half-mile buffer. And so a very good portion of our field office and a pretty good portion of Trinity County falls within that buffer. So in addition to that WUI component, the urban interface component, we requested that all of our acres impacted by recent large fires within the last 5 years, and then the one outlier older than 5 years being the Helena fire, be included in that EA. And then we also augmented the map to include sort of high risk or really sensitive areas in Grass Valley Creek. So areas that would be negatively impacted by a large wildfire, or the agency's already spent quite a bit of money and effort in trying to do stream and watershed restoration on those, those DG slopes. So, so far, we've confirmed that our WUI acres are in, our post-large fire acres are in, and we haven't heard back if our Grass Valley Creek and additional ACECs or areas of critical environmental concern are included as well. But we have a big old chunk of acres involved with that programmatic. And there's a few of us that will be working the winter to help with that lift, the statewide programmatic. So I'm the hazard fuels chair for that group that's helping develop that NEPA. So yeah, that was a long answer, but yeah, we have a ton of acres.
Great news. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, and I guess the last bit. So the treatment types will be hand cut and pile, lop and scatter, so pretty light-handed stuff, and then mechanical work, so mastication, and then mechanical cut and pile, and then lastly maintenance through broadcast burning. So pretty good suite of options for us, and that that kind of rounds it out.
Thank you.
Cool. Great. All right. Okay, so nobody from CAL FIRE is here. Tom, do you want to give an update for Caltrans?
Yeah, so as you know, on maintenance, we're seeing what the winter weather is going to be doing and where our concentration of cleanup is going to be. We're going to be doing our normal treatments of mowing where we can, and then dependent on what our Caltrans, CAL FIRE inmate or conservation camp contract will dictate how much labor we can come up with. So we're looking into that on the availability. But this last year was everything dried up, our labor force dried up, so that wasn't much of an option. So not much to report on beyond that. Trying to coordinate with Chris and his work at Guy Covington, and doing that, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, Highway 3 made it through this storm okay. I didn't see any big trees down this time, so hopefully that'll help.
Good.
Okay, let's see. Nobody from HIMPOM or NRCS, Air Quality, SBI, or Tehama. So Trinity Center VFD, that's me. We had submitted and requested 2 proposals for the Title II funding. And so one of them was for fuel reduction maintenance along the road 35N 14Y, which goes to Bauerman Boat Ramp and Alpine View campgrounds. And the Forest Service committed to doing that maintenance themselves. So we withdrew that application or that proposal for Title II funding. So that's good, because that's kind of a fire trap. And as Tom mentioned, the Guy Covington proposal was approved by the RAC. So it's going to start going through the process where it has to get signed off by the forest supervisor and all that, but then that will do $75,000 worth of work on federal lands, kind of at close to the intersection of Guy Covington Drive and Highway 3. So it will expand the work that Caltrans did, the 50-foot shaded fuel break, to 100 feet. I think Chris will correct me if I'm wrong. And also do a lot of work on those different federal lots and properties at that intersection of Highway 3 and Guy Covington. I think that's all for Trinity Center. Chris, do you have any updates for that? I'm going to turn it over to you for Trinity County RCD updates. Do you have anything else to say about Guy Covington?
I think you basically covered it, and then with that funding, we'll probably seek to use some additional funding from Cal Fire to potentially do some work on the SPI land out there as well, where it makes sense to just kind of expand on the work that's already going to occur and has been approved. And then it's in other updates, the crew kept working and they are now laid off. We were hoping to keep a crew on through the winter, and just because of the current weather and what's predicted, they've all been laid off. So we'll see about potentially getting a crew back on earlier, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. And they've been working out on, like Rob mentioned, the BLM land on Lewiston Road to finish some of the roadside, the 200-foot roadside fuel breaks. So they made some more piles where we weren't able to masticate some of that material. And then they've continued on Goose Ranch Road, which is also part of that bigger Lewiston project that BLM has out there. So again, on BLM land, we've used a combination of BLM funding as well as California Coastal Conservancy funding to implement some of that work. And then we've been assisting the Forest Service in pile burning. And that was what started some of this air quality, is that the conditions weren't ideal, and so they were getting shut down early and not really able to achieve the acreage that they could have that was possible, just because of air quality. If you live in Weaverville, you probably saw the smoke when that occurred like a couple weeks ago at this point. And so now it's basically, without the crews, it's more the planning season, and so we're planning multiple projects, working closely with the BLM as well as with the Forest Service to use some of our Cal Fire funding that's coming through their CCI grant. And then that's pretty much, it's just planning the next field season. And we've been working pretty closely with trying to work with the county to get the opportunity to do a bunch of fuels reduction in the Junction City area, in the vicinity of the Junction City Park and the Junction City dump. And so hopefully they'll grant us permission to do that work. And then that's kind of where we're headed, and what we've done so far. So if there's any questions, I can answer those or attempt to.
And if I remember correctly, the Title II RAC approved the first year funding for the community chipping program, right? So that's right.
Yeah, that's also correct. So we got for Title II, it's the Guy Covington project. And then also we got, I think, an additional $30,000 to help facilitate community chipping within the county. And once that's approved, we'll probably set up community chipping days for different communities to try to get as much done within communities and hopefully empower some of the landowners to do some of that work so we can come take care of the mess they make. So yeah, so that's exciting too.
Any questions for Chris? Nope. Okay. Well, then I'll turn it over to Xander for the Watershed Center. Oh, Amelia.
Can I go? And so we also skipped over the collaborative group. I don't know if Jerry or Kelly have an update, but we can go back to them. You want to go, Jerry?
Yeah, short report, because I don't think much has happened. There's supposed to have been a field trip I don't think it happened. I guess just a lot of people did not respond. I have to, Kelly, do you have anything more from the collaborative? I can't really think of anything immediate.
Yeah, there was we were attempting to get a field tour set up to have the collaborative group meet with U.S. Forest Service representatives to have a look at pre-scoping sort of units within the McFarland fire
Right.
down by Wildwood. And they did go forward with that meeting, although I do not know that there were many, if any, collaborative members that actually ended up being able to make it out. And it was right before that Saturday storm that we had last week. Supposed to have been on Friday. And I know that they had also invited quite a number of individuals from Post Mountain to attend that meeting. So they decided that with all the work that they did on getting it sort of organized, they were going to move forward with that meeting. And I spoke with Robin Chin, who's the NEPA specialist for the South Fork Management Unit. And she thought that we might be able to collect, I mean, they might collect some photos and have like a discussion at one of our future, actual full collaborative meetings, just to sort of give people a sense of, what that's looking like out there.
So, excuse me, Kelly, do you know if any Post Mountain people went out there?
They said they had confirmation for quite a, from Peter Dobo and probably his daughter, who's the chief. I think her name is Liv.
Yeah.
Astrid.
Astrid, that's right. I don't.
So they
So
had confirmation, but you don't know if anybody actually showed?
I did not talk with anybody this week about it, so I'm not certain. I know that they had like 8 staffers like ready to go and maps and all that kind of stuff, which I had distributed to the group. But I wasn't able to make it out because I was going to be out of town too. So I didn't actually get a confirmation as to how that went.
Right. Just an aside on that. I mean, I know you kind of described it as a pre-scoping field trip, but a lot of the collaborative folks who have been on field trips over the last year and a half have gotten really pretty tired of just going out and looking at burned timber after the fact. So I think that was one of the reasons that there was not a greater response.
Yeah, my understanding was that from my discussions with Larry Glass was that there was a desire to have especially good representation from the fuel break work group on that meeting, which is basically industry folks, yourself, Jerry, Arnold Whitridge, and some of the environmental community out there to have a discussion about the types of prescriptions that would be acceptable to the collaborative prior to it sort of being canned in a specific sort of recommendation from the South Fork Management Unit, and that those conversations happened before the actual scoping. But my understanding from Robin Chin was that Chris was keen to move forward with it because they really do want to try and get scoping happening as soon as possible for the sake of trying to make sure that they can get some sort of salvage together while the burnt timber is still merchantable. So that was my understanding as to why they decided to go ahead and move forward with that anyways.
Right, so there's a little bit of background that, again, Forest Service kind of just takes the giant step. And I think there's been discussion for some collaborative members to start attending the program of work meetings at the Forest Service. So community members, collaborative members are really in on the conversation at the very front end of what's going to happen, which I think then will lead to more ongoing involvement project by project.
Yeah, that's the goal. So yeah, I don't have a specific report out on how that meeting or how that field tour actually went. I know there was good weather. I'm sure that they probably did it, but as far as the actual collaborative, there'll be I guess it's the next meetings will be in January with the
Recreation Committee meeting on the 14th and the full collaborative meeting on the 21st of January.
Okay, I have to get off here for another phone call in just a minute, so I just want to jump and say I would really like to support RCD on that evacuation route planning and encourage you to connect with the collaborative and the small work group on the shaded fuel break project, which is one of the components was evacuation routes, stabilizing and keeping evacuation routes open. So I hope, and maybe that connection can also be included in the grant application, the collaborative connection. Thank you all.
Okay, any questions then for Kelly real quick about the collaborative? Okay, apologize for skipping you guys. So back to Trinity County RCD, Amelia.
All right, always a busy time for me, but very busy right now. So some good news, the California Fire Safe Council has awarded and funds are in hand to work on the coordinators grant. And so we've got a lot of moving pieces there. We have a very active schedule planned for next year. And so we have about 13 neighborhood style meetings to schedule to do Firewise and neighborhood level communications. We have 8 community meetings. We have the May Wildfire Awareness Day event to plan. So we've got a lot of moving pieces and we're just getting all of our planning ducks in a row to get that going. With the Title II RAC, we were allocated 50% of our ask, which was $99,910,000. So we were allocated $50,000 to move into the next step of the process, which is it going to the Board of Supervisor for approval and then into contracting. So we don't know when we'll see those funds, maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months, because we're also getting in line behind all of the other RACs that are ongoing. So Siskiyou and Shasta RAC also have all of their projects that are getting into the Forest Service GNA hopper. So quite a lot of moving parts and pieces there. So that's very good news. Yes, we are working on the evacuation planning grant, and I'll get to that at the end. But yeah, if the social media side of things and the newsletter, if you guys have anything you want shared or anything like that, please reach out to me. With our CAL FIRE funds for the fire prevention, we're going to be working with the Southern Trinity Fire Safe Council, Southern Trinity Volunteer Fire Department, as well as High and Palm and some of the other Southern Trinity folks to rewrite the Southern Trinity section of the 2020 Trinity County CWPP. And so we'll be kicking off some of those stakeholder meetings in January and February. I don't anticipating having full community meetings until March, just due to the roads and accessibility. I think we're going to be looking March, April, or May once things are a little safer for everybody to get around. So that's what we'll be looking at that time frame. 1 second. Okay. And then along with that, in January, February, March, we will also be asking for data requests. So moving forward, every year, we're going to be doing an annual review of the CWPP. And so Denise is going to take all the data from all of our partners for what projects were accomplished, what projects were burned and might change from roadside shaded fuel breaks into hazard tree reduction and that kind of stuff. And also looking at what of the projects are in planning or any new projects identified. So we are going to be starting with the 2020 and the 2021 review on those. So 2 years of data, and then each year moving forward until we finish this contract in 2025. So this is going to lead right into our next CWPP write-up that will start in 2023 or 2024. So that's my outlook right now and where we'll be going. So starting each month, so January, February, March, each month will be a different data requests. So January will be for all completed projects. February will be looking at planned projects for this year. And then March, we're going to be asking for shape files for planning projects for out years. So those are that's how we're going to start tackling those GIS items, as well as that's going to then update our CWPP portal. And so we have our online GIS portal, which has all of the CWPP projects. And so we're going to also include the analysis data onto that portal that's freely accessible to everyone.
Okay, thanks, Amelia. Let's see, Kelly, you have something else for the RCD?
Yeah, I just wanted to report out that we had a very successful season doing recovery efforts in the August complex, both on the Shasta Trinity and National Forest and the Six Rivers National Forest sides of South Fork Mountain. We spent almost $800,000 of bear burn area emergency recovery funds on the two forests, doing primarily infrastructural upgrades and corrective actions to the roadways and things that were damaged during the August complex fire. And we have been in early discussions about doing more bear work for both the Monument and the McFarland fires, which will probably total to a significantly lower number than we had for August complex, but we should be out there doing some of that work this next summer. So I just wanted to report that out.
Hey, Kelly.
But not the river complex?
I haven't heard anything from them about the river complex, no.
Okay.
I will inquire. I sort of, they specifically brought up McFarland and the Monument because I think they know that we work in the South Fork a lot, but I'll inquire about the river because I know that there's some need up there as well.
Yeah,
We
with
may
all
need-
the debris flows and sediment movement, it would seem like that would be, yeah.
Will do.
potential.
I'll check in on that and report back when I have some more information. Tom?
Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, Kelly, with, Trinity County fires and all my other fires in the other counties, I've been aggressive trying to remove the potential hazards for the roadway. We know that 299 is a high traffic, 36 is very difficult to get in there afterwards. In your experience with the bear, or what you assess, and then as time goes on, are you witnessing the long-term effects and the decline in, like, when you assess a tree and or you're out there, and maybe not that you would be the one assessing the trees, but in your experience of the SCAR assessment, do you see trees like, oh, that one's going to come back? And do you see the decline, like, oh, wow, we should have done more? Are you seeing the failure? I'm seeing a lot of failure with the Buckhorn Summit area, the Delta area. I mean, we really pushed hard to get rid of those because, maintenance, it's really tough. We can do onesie, twosie trees, but when there's acres of trees, that's complicated.
Mhm.
And then very hazardous to traveling public. And then you're talking drainage and waterways and erosion. What's your experience, or can you add to that thought of, how time goes on and how the fire affects these trees and the waterways?
Most of the areas that that we treat with regard to the bear funding tend to be higher intensity burn areas where we've got burnt out culverts and things of that nature. And so obviously it has mostly to do with roadbed kind of reconstruction and culvert replacement and things of that nature. We the work that we typically are doing out there on those Forest Service roads isn't necessarily hazard tree removal. Unless it's, like they're really obvious. So it's, so I can't really speak directly to that, but we've had some discussions about that in the collaborative group, about sort of survivability, and what, if you've got, if you're, at least the way I understand what you're asking is like, if you've got a tree that's like partly burnt, like, do you take it or do you leave it because it's still kind of alive? And so there's been a lot of discussion about how, how that, how at least the collaborative sort of approaches, that, and then that's coming oftentimes from people from industry and stuff like that, that, they see a tree and they go, well, that thing's like, half burnt up and there's some green on it, but, it's been cooked well enough that it's going to be dead within a season or two. So, I think there's a growing understanding of how mortality works post-fire, and
then combine that too with your bare funding, where it's time sensitive that you have to use this fund. I'm looking at a lot of emergency funding. I have the equipment and the contractors out there now. Are you do it now, or you have to do it yourself later?
That's
so
right.
I appreciate you having that conversation, and that people need to be aware of the reasons why. And sometimes people are in shock and awe, but we are seeing regrowth, we are seeing rejuvenation. But when it comes to I'm a person of safety first. I saw on the coast, there was that picture of the family, the couple that got hit by that fallen tree, and even if it's just a fallen tree on the roadway, it doesn't hit anybody, it still creates a nuisance where our assets of time and labor are taken, and we only have so much. So
yeah,
I appreciate you having that conversation with the community.
I do think that just, to cap that off, I think there is a better understanding of how those fire impacts. People are seeing it now. They see the fact that, well, oh, that tree was actually alive, as recently as 6 months ago or whatever, and now it's clearly like on its way out, and is now considered, could be considered a hazard tree. So I think there's it's a level of awareness, and bringing the community up to a level of awareness that, yeah, you've got 150 or 200 feet on either side of the highway that you're clearing, and if you're doing it thoroughly, like, I think it serves us better, to be able to do that up front, like you're saying, while we've got the emergency funding to do so. So, and I think that awareness is growing. I think that, that there's less of a pushback against, like, well, that tree's half alive. Well, it's probably not going to be half alive in a year. So I think there's a growing understanding of how those impacts sort of perpetuate out over time.
Good. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other updates from the RCD? Okay, so before we move on, I think we need to add Southern Trinity, Amelia, to the list of project updates. I don't know if Eric has anything he wants to let the group know about what's going on down in that part of the county.
Probably defer to Jeff if he's willing to. I'm pretty much just a administrative support. I did meet with Daryl a day or so ago and got an update, but I'm not sure that I have much to report personally.
Okay, Jeff?
I don't have a lot to report. I know right now things have been a little slow just because of the weather and the holiday season coming up. I know Eric and my father had discussions. I know Dad's met with Gene also from the volunteer fire department on some issues. It's coming around. But like I said, I really don't have much offhand. He's on the road right now, or he'd be on the call also. So he wanted me to fill in. But like I said, I know things are moving forward. with some different projects out there with different landowners and different grants that are coming. But as a fire council, you know exactly where he's at and what he has put forward. I'm not real exact on. So I just know it's moving positive, which is good. So.
Okay, well, thanks for hanging in there, listening to what's going on in the rest of the county, and make sure you let us know where there are things that, you know, we can help you, or where you need more information or whatever.
Well, I know Dad's emailed Amelia a couple of times, and I was copied on those. I think one he sent to me by mistake instead of her. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm pleased with the progress we're making. I know it's slow and tedious, and thank you guys for your help. But I know he'll keep you in the loop for sure.
Okay,
Carol, I did offer that if they had anything that they thought would be eligible for the Cal Fire fire prevention grant that is open right now, that the RCD could spearhead a proposal for them if they're interested. But otherwise, the RCD is likely not going to propose for that project or that funding round, because we have quite a lot of funds at hand that we need to administer first.
and the email that went out that has the link to the webinar on tomorrow, did that go to all the Fire Safe Council members?
Yes, I don't know if the webinar link did, but the link for the full website with all that information did go out to all of the Fire Safe Council members.
Okay,
So they could find that information there.
okay. All right, so then I think then Xander, what's the Watershed Center up to?
Sure. I guess first I will address the tour that was mentioned earlier for the Dubakella Goods McFarland Ridge area. I'm not sure what their official name is for it. But both Dylan Sheedy and I attended from the Watershed. And unfortunately, there wasn't much collaborative turnout, but there were industry representatives from Trinity River Lumber and Sierra Pacific, as well as a lot of the Forest Service staff who's been working on getting that project pushed forward. And we drove around and looked at a lot of the high intensity, high severity burn. But from Dylan's perspective and my own, we thought it was a reasonable project if it's able to get through the planning process somewhat quickly, especially with the kind of weather we're having that can eventually speed up, some of the decay now. So just wanted to speak to that. Next, what I've been involved in with most of my time is the Bauerman Ridge Cooperative Field Break. The Watershed has been working for the Forest Service as the third-party NEPA team for that CE. And so we've been moving it forward. We're still in the middle of sort of putting it together, and we've been adding units here and there. But we've got a reasonably firm idea of, the overall footprint. And so now, with that being said, it'll be passed to the various specialists to look at mitigations and potential impacts to all the various aspects of the project. Aside from that, the Watershed crews have been doing a lot of pile burning recently, as well as plantation thinning near Hayfork and towards Indian Valley outside of the burn footprint. As of now, the crews have been laid off with the weather, and our forestry tech crews finished salvage layout for the Shasta Trinity and Six Rivers. And so they got quite a bit of area finished with that. That is pretty much what I have to report.
So Xander, on the Bauerman Ridge project, so now that the RCD will be doing the federal lands around Guy Covington, how does that overlap with what you have on your map?
So I was in contact with Chris about that, as well as Laura at the Forest Service. And so we were able to include a few of the small parcels in Covington Mill within our project, but we made sure that we weren't overlapping anything. We were able to make it work out beneficially.
Okay,
And I'm gonna have a meeting with Tim Ritchie with the Forest Service after the holidays here, including looking at the Bauerman Gulch Road too for some possible treatments, as you had mentioned a month ago or something.
so did you get my email with the questions that I asked about the campgrounds and all that stuff?
I don't recall one about campgrounds. You want to just ask now, or I can hang on after the meeting if you'd like.
Well, I'll send it again, but yeah, it was kind of like on the maps, it looks like you're picking up some fuel reduction around like Preacher Meadow and Alpine View campgrounds. But it's hard to tell from the maps. So
Gotcha. I'll be sure and send you an updated map. The recreation folks at the Forest Service had sort of a parallel and overlapping project. And so we got rid of the Alpine View portion, but kept the Preacher Meadow within our project. So we kind of split those up. But I'll get a updated map sent over to the Fire Safe Council here to show everything else that we've added, including the Guy Covington Mill parcels.
okay. Yeah, because it's the scale of the map that you sent, it was just hard to see. So
Sure.
so I will resend my questions and hopefully bigger map, I can figure out what's going where. That would be great. Thanks.
Sure.
So any questions for Xander and the Watershed Center? Okay, so who have I missed as far as project updates?
Coffee
Okay.
Creek.
Marla, do you want to do an update for Coffee Creek?
I would if I had anything, Carol, but they didn't ask me to take anything, just to sit in and start participating. So that's all I have today.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, though.
Okay, so then I'll end of project updates, and I'll turn it back to Amelia to talk about grant opportunities.
So most of you may have seen that at the bottom of the newsletter or within the bottom newsletter has some of the open grant opportunities right now. I'm gonna keep posting them there and not in our agenda and minutes, just to keep our agenda and minutes a little bit cleaner, but still get the information out and draw a little bit more attraction with the pictures. It will also be shared out on social media as well to just encourage everyone and make sure everybody's seeing it. So one of the ones that the RCD is working on is the California Fire Safe Council Evacuation Route Planning Funding. And so that is in partnership with the county. So the county is actually the applicant and the RCD is facilitating the application and will be the implementer. And so we are looking to essentially collaborate with Trinity County to take the evacuation zones that they have developed to put it in together with a full evacuation plan, which will include a couple analyses for evacuation route planning. And so we're looking to do a couple things. The first analysis is to identify and really hone in on all of the one way in, one way out roads. So CAL FIRE has done this in a spreadsheet version, and we're looking to take that into a GIS analysis, and so get a nice map of all of these, and also do an assessment of which roads could have alternate evacuation routes if the neighborhoods had access to keys or gates or easements kind of conversations. And then also if there are areas where roads could be built to provide additional routes out of the communities. That's a second component to that analysis. The second analysis is going to look at the actual routes and do an assessment as far as travel and cars on the roads and number of individuals evacuating during wildfires, and do an assessment for the routes for each community to identify where we might have bottlenecks or issues. It's also going to include a component of a collaboration between CHP, Shasta County, Trinity County, the sheriff's offices, Caltrans, and other partners and cooperators as to what it would take if communities need to be evacuated so quickly that we need to convert State Route 299 from into a one-way route so that people are just getting out. So that's also going to be discussed and evaluated just to really identify the process for the county. The county doesn't know what the process would be if we needed to go there or what the triggers are. And so to outline what that looks like and what the steps would be to get that done, who do we need to work with to get the correct approvals, all of that. So this is very tightly coordinated with the county. The other items for this are going to be some signage, and so looking to sponsor some reflective signage for landowners that come and participate in our community meetings. So they leave with a free address sign for their house that is helping to increase overall awareness and access for our emergency responders. But then also looking to fund some street signs as well. Some of them that either get stolen extremely readily, or also some of them that just need new road signs, need new directional signs to help in the evacuation process. So that'll be about $10,000 to the signage. The total ask is $150,000. The maximum for the county that we can ask is $380,000. I'm going under just as I want to be a little bit more competitive. And this is a pilot project, so there's potential to get more funding down the road. The last component to this is education and outreach. So there would be a brochure created about the evacuation zones and the routes. And there would be, after the plan is developed, there'd be a brochure for each community to identify their evacuation routes and where they can find more information about the evacuation route from their specific house. With the analysis for each community's evacuation, we're going to look at primary, secondary, and third evacuation routes for north, west, east, and south options. As we know, fires don't come one direction, they come from every direction. So we will also be assessing which roads need to be improved to provide safe evacuation. And so with the prioritization of primary evacuation routes, hopefully that will allow Caltrans or DOT or other entities to use that as leverage to get more funding to help maintain our roads and improve our roadside shade fuel breaks and all of that, as well as the RCD and the Watershed Center, but some emphasis on the roads themselves and their potholes and that as well. So then the final bit is just the community meetings, the outreach, presenting, and just having a presence at the Disaster Council, as well as the Fire Safe Council, the Chiefs Association, and really working with a lot of stakeholders on this plan.
Sorry, I need to mute myself. Pager's going off. So do you want a letter of support then from the Fire Safe Council? Okay. So what do you think, guys? I think the Fire Safe Council should be in support of this project. I see heads nodding. Okay, any questions or concerns, comments? Okay. All right, so I think Amelia and I will draft a letter of support and send it to the appropriate grantors. Okay. I think this sounds great. I'm definitely, after the river complex, when there was such confusion over what was being evacuated and where people should go and all that stuff, I'm seriously thinking this is something we need. Okay, any other?
Yeah. I got one little thing to add to that. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's awesome, but I was real active. My brother was very active in the fire over there in Chico and in Concagua, and that evacuation that happened in the Skyway.
Yeah.
It might be something to look into with an agency over there has looked at it now and has implemented a plan for evacuation out of that area and their other rural areas that might help us, skip a step, or it's something they've experienced firsthand and dealt with in a way that we never imagined. So with their evacuation plan they have now over there, it might be something to work into what we have, because we have those areas like Coffee Creek or even the other parts of rural part of the county that you have one way in, one way out. But see what they've done, what plans they've worked with, and the steps they've taken to might help speed us along or give you guys some great ideas on evacuation plans.
Yeah, great idea, Jeff. Yeah, we went through this with Trinity Center. It's the whole community is one road into Trinity Center. So we actually bulldozed 2 additional temporary roads that were mostly for fire rescue vehicles to be able to get in. Because if everybody's going out the one way out, how do the rescue vehicles get in? And that was part of the problem with the fire Paradise.
That's the problem they have is,
Yeah.
my brother followed that dozer in, pushing every car off a Skyway to allow vehicles to come out, because people evacuated their vehicles in the middle of the road, burned, some didn't burn. And they ended up pushing them. I got a video of it, the dozer pushing those cars right offside the road to get people out.
Right.
So how can you prevent that and make it a safe travel in and out of that area?
Exactly. Okay. Amelia's on it. Okay, any other items, thoughts before we adjourn the Fire Safe Council? Okay, we will adjourn and see you all in January then. Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.